Welcome to Blood Bowl, the only game throwing together the wild, violent, grand world of Warhammer Fantasy and good old American football. Blood Bowl 2 launches off the line of scrimmage with this frankly brilliant idea borrowed from the tabletop game of the same name. It fumbles on a couple of downs with the execution, but can this turn-based frantic frenzy carry the day?
The concept of Blood Bowl is straightforward and easy to understand for anyone who's watched an NFL game. The 11 players on one side try to prevent the opposing 11 from passing or running a ball into their end zone. What they might not expect is that the teams might be made up of brutal orcs or agile, deadly dark elves, among other fantasy races. And when I say brutal and deadly, I mean that literally. In addition to running and passing, players can take a block action, which is really more of an attack. An often gory and always satisfying slow motion animation could end with the opposing player knocked down, knocked out, injured, or even dead, depending on how the virtual dice fall.
Apparently, wizards call that kindred energy.
Blood Bowl 2's campaign feels like a glorified tutorial that introduces the various mechanics at a semi-sensible pace, and while in the early rounds with more than half the mechanics gutted to help introduce new players, it is worth noting that within the campaign you'll be introduced to a more human look at the world of Blood Bowl, Cabal Vision, and the life and the world of the players within the game, from traders selling you out to the highest bidder, to industrial accidents resulting in damage to the pitch you have to play around. Blood Bowl 2's campaign not only charts the re-rise of the Reikland Reavers, but it offers various game modifiers through unique circumstances to each match. However, despite these attempts to spice up the campaign, to anybody who has played the first game or already has a firm grasp on the mechanics, it falls flat, becoming a slugfest and a chore to play through. It also may be important to note that while playing against the AI, when the unexpected happens, especially considering the RNG and the dice, the excitement is considerably subtracted from the lack of a buddy who can laugh at my luck or misfortune with me. Like Warhammer 40k Space Hulk before it, Blood Bowl 2 suffers from its slavish devotion to replicating the rules of a physical product without considering the difference in media.
A professionally voice-acted, substantial single-player campaign with an entertaining story makes up for some of the roster woes. It's all the ridiculousness of the Warhammer universe with any kind of pretense of seriousness punted into the backfield, told mostly through the commentary of a sportscasting vampire and ogre duo. They made it a little more forgivable when the matches themselves hitched quite a bit in the latter half due to some mandatory bonus objectives that must be completed in addition to simply winning the match. One required me to foul several orc players, no small feat, score a touchdown with a specific player type, and win. I was only able to progress by restarting the match several times until the dice all fell in my favor. Another symptom of the dice rolling problem. Demanding bonus objectives should be optional and provide a reward, not a requirement to complete a level, especially in the absence of any adjustable difficulty settings.
Good evening to all you Cabal Vision viewers out there in the old world and beyond. I hope your crystal ball is fully charged. If not, find yourself a wizard and chain him to it.
If you're just planning to play against the AI though, Blood Bowl 2 probably isn't worth the price of admission. The real meat of this game is its highly customizable multiplayer options where you can create persistent leagues with up to 128 teams, tweaking how both the regular season and playoffs will go down. Player injuries and deaths are persistent in league play as well, which has the potential to create some seriously bitter rivalries. From my limited testing of this mode, I expect it's where Blood Bowl 2 will really shine in the long term. My biggest complaint with Blood Bowl 2, however, is that some of the unit rosters tend to lack in variety. You can take your pick from 8 races, but not all are created equal. Humans, dwarves, dark elves, and Skaven can build a team from 5 unit types with all their bases covered. Orcs get 6, however, but high elves have only 4 player types, and Chaos and Bretonnians have a pitiful 3. The latter 3 races feel almost like an afterthought, and lack basic roles needed to play a well-rounded game. The Chaos roster is missing passing and catching specialists, for example. This limits their valuable strategies. With the constraint in the roster selection, it is hard for players to have more creative tactics, leading to boring and repetitive gameplay.
Every drive forced me to decide how many of my limited roster of players to use beating the snot out of the opposing side, how many to use trying to obtain or keep the ball, and how was I going to keep or pull ahead over the course of 16 turns. Against more physical teams, I often had to double up on the attack for a flanking bonus to have any chance of success, adding another layer of intense consideration. And all that brainy stuff aside, it never got old watching a 1-ton ogre backhand a snotty elf back into the bleachers. Point of consideration is that because the matches are only 16 turns long and there are no downs to limit how long one team can possess the ball, if your opponent wins the kickoff, you either have to intercept, pick up a fumble, or let them score to get possession. This led to a lot of low-scoring matches when I was pitted against an even opponent, and that can be unexciting because of a lack of meaningful action. There isn't really enough time in the game to score more than 3 or 4 times in between both teams, and holding onto the ball indefinitely, throwing out the clock when you're ahead is an extremely viable yet anticlimactic strategy.
Evening from Cabal Vision HD. Greenskin teams are tough and can hit hard.
Blood Bowl 2 is a smashing, satisfying, strategy-oriented sports melee that sometimes relies too heavily on its roots in RNG. It can really bring people into the detailed world who have a hard time getting past the $195 price barrier of the original tabletop game, and from a value proposition, it caters to those who would like to play but have no one willing to locally, and those who want to play with friends who live far away. Overall, we rate this game a 10 out of staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning to finish this project the night before. Thanks for watching.
Iron, Jim.
Iron what, Bob? Your shirt?
Chains, Jim. Iron chains for chaining up your wizard. Iron is best. It's harder to enchant than steel or silver. Oh, and don't forget to break their fingers as well.
Thank you, Bob. Yes, fascinating. And we may come back to that later.